The first scream didn't sound human, it sounded like something tearing loose. I looked up just as a wall of HOA residents slammed into my service gate, metal groaning, before the latch snapped clean open. And then Hazel stepped out. 500 pounds of Grizzly curiosity paused in the sunlight, tilting her head at the chaos she'd just inherited. People didn't check the fences or the river barrier, they just ran blind and screaming. I hit the recall alarm, heart hammering, praying she'd listen. Hazel turned. Marlene Cole made her first move at 7:12 a.m., and she didn't bother knocking. I found her announcement nailed straight into my front gate. A glossy, full-color flyer declaring the Silver Creek Estates Community Picnic would be held at our beautiful creekside meadow. The problem: that meadow was mine, every square foot of it. The county plat map, the deed my late uncle signed, even the steel posts along Alder Creek all said the same thing: private wildlife habitat, not a party venue. I tore the flyer down. A fresh splinter stuck in the wood like an insult. By noon, another version appeared, this time taped to the HOA kiosk beside the mail hut. Trevor Holt, her compliance enforcer, stood guard like he owned the place. "You can't post your little maps here," he said, smirking at the copy I'd pinned beside it. "It's a legal boundary," I replied. "Yours ends at the West Bank. Marlene says this side is community space now." He leaned closer. "She's tired of your eyesore sanctuary." That single sentence told me everything. Her motivation wasn't safety, wasn't misunderstanding, wasn't community spirit. It was control, pure, clean territorial control. I delivered a notarized warning to the HOA office. The clerk slid it back like it was radioactive. "Talk to Marlene?" I called the sheriff. "We'll send someone," the deputy said. "Might be Monday. It's Tuesday. Busy week." As I walked back to my cabin, Hazel eating berries behind the fence line, one thought settled hard in my chest. Marlene wasn't planning a picnic. She was testing how far she could push her claim on my land, and she had just taken her first step across the line. By Wednesday morning, the paper war had begun. A yellow violation slip fluttered on my gate, accusing me of unmanaged vegetation. An hour later, another notice appeared: unauthorized wildlife containment. By sunset, I had 3 more noise disturbance, improper fencing, and one that simply read general non-compliance, which wasn't even a real category. Every slip carried Marlene's signature. I stamped each one "Return to Sender" and dropped them into the HOA mailbox. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I documented. Meanwhile, Hazel lounged behind her 12-foot barrier, rolling on her back like none of this insanity existed. I checked the cameras along Alder Creek, fresh batteries, clear angles, every sign visible. That night, as I logged Hazel's feeding and checked temperatures along the fence line, a thought nudged the back of my mind. Marlene wasn't trying to win. She was trying to exhaust. And exhausted people make mistakes. I wasn't planning to be one of them. Saturday came bright and loud. The HOA's parking lot across the creek, filled with SUVs, minivans, and cars with bumper stickers about community pride. A portable speaker crackled to life. Kids with face paint ran circles around coolers, folding chairs clattered. It looked like a county fair on land that wasn't theirs. Marlene arrived last, stepping out of a pearl-white crossover with a wireless mic in hand. She climbed onto a collapsible stage like she was cutting a ribbon at a grand opening. "Welcome, Silver Creek," her voice boomed. "Enjoy our beautiful meadow." I raised my cheap megaphone. "Marlene, you're standing on private land. You need to move back across Alder Creek." She smiled sweetly. "Neighbors, don't be alarmed. Some people cling to outdated maps." Behind her, the 4-foot danger sign stood in the sun. "Private property active Grizzly habitat. Do not cross the creek." No one looked at it. People waded through the shallow section of the creek, shoes in hand, spreading blankets on my meadow like it was a public beach. Dogs ran loose. A toddler splashed in the water 2 feet from the sign. Then a group of teens tossed a flying disc. A long throw sailed way off target, clearing my split-rail buffer and landing squarely inside my side. One kid climbed over instantly. That was the moment the line stopped being theoretical. The first scream sliced through the air like a blade. Not because Hazel was doing anything dangerous, she was simply walking. A slow, curious amble along the inside of her real enclosure on the far bank behind 12 feet of welded steel. But crowds don't analyze. Crowds react. The parents near the creek grabbed their children and bolted. Folding chairs toppled. A cooler flipped, sending ice flying. Someone yelled, "The bear's out," even though Hazel was very much in. The panic wave spread fast, straight toward the HOA's service lane. A boy stumbled on the rocks and fell hard, twisting his ankle. His father tried carrying him up the slope, but they hit the worst obstacle possible, the HOA's own maintenance chain padlocked across the access lane. The ambulance sirens blaring arrived moments later, only to be blocked by that same chain. I sprinted down the slope, bolt cutters in hand. "Move!" I shouted. One crunch steel snapped. I dragged the chain aside and waved the EMTs through. They lifted the boy in seconds. Marlene pointed at me like she'd caught a criminal. He destroyed HOA property. I pointed at the ambulance disappearing behind her. I destroyed a hazard. I took photos of the broken chain, the crowd trampling warning signs, and the crushed gate at the creek crossing. Evidence wasn't emotional. Evidence just needed to be clear. By late afternoon, sheriff vehicles and a state wildlife SUV lined my gravel drive. Dr. Sienna Park stepped out, calm, efficient, her clipboard already open. She didn't waste time on small talk. "We need to verify enclosure integrity," she said. I walked her through the main fence, the redundant locks, the hot wire overhang, the gate logs, the perimeter alarms. She inspected everything with the precision of someone who knew exactly how dangerous misinformation could be. Marlene followed close behind, performing tears like she was auditioning for a daytime drama. "He released the bear," she cried. "I saw the gate swing open, Doctor." Park eyed her. "Ma'am, the bear is contained behind a 12-foot welded barrier across a river. You were on his land." I performed Hazel's sedation check under full wildlife protocol, proper dosage, documented weight, 2-person verification, body camera recording. Hazel slumped gently into sleep while Dr. Park checked vitals. "She's healthy, calm, and never breached her primary containment," Dr. Park said. The public was the one out of bounds. For a moment I thought it might all settle. Then Marlene uploaded her edited video, and everything ruptured again. The clip was everywhere within minutes. It showed chaos, screaming Marlene, narrating like a breathless witness, and over it all, a distorted version of my voice shouting, "Get them, girl!" followed by the metallic clang of a gate. None of it was real. But in the court of public opinion, real didn't matter. Comments flooded local forums, shut the sanctuary down. He used the bear as a weapon. Put the animal down before it kills someone. My inbox filled with threats. Someone mailed a dead fish. Another threw rocks at my mailbox. Jace analyzed the audio, pointing out splice gaps, mismatched waveforms, and the exact stock sound library used for the gate noise. Daniel demanded I save every file, every timestamp. We had proof, but public narratives move faster than truth. 3 nights later, Alder Creek went dead, quiet. My pressure plate alarm blinked red on the monitor. I pulled up the infrared feed. A gray, windowless van sat at the North Service Road, lights off. 2 figures stepped out, one with bolt cutters, the other holding a dart rifle marked with orange warning tape. They weren't here to scare Hazel. They were here to remove her. Mason emerged from the tree line like a ghost. 1 tackle, 3 zip tie clicks, and the first intruder hit the dirt. The second sprinted back to the van as my drone locked onto the license plate. The van screeched away. The man on the ground said nothing. But as the sheriff lifted the dart gun, his face tightened. "Car fentanyl," he said. "Enough to kill a grizzly and a human." I didn't need more proof. I already knew exactly who had sent them. The county hearing room wasn't built for tension, but it held plenty that morning. Rows of metal chairs were packed with Silver Creek residents, reporters, 2 wildlife officers, and people who had probably never cared about zoning laws until today. Marlene arrived last, wearing a navy blazer and an expression of serene victimhood. Her lawyer, slick hair, polished shoes, expensive confidence carried a briefcase like it contained the whole truth of the universe. I sat at my table with Daniel, watching Marlene whisper instructions to her attorney, as if she were the one running the proceedings. The board chair cleared her throat. "Silver Creek Estates versus Logan Reed. We'll begin with the complainant." Marlene's lawyer launched in immediately. "Ladies and gentlemen, what happened at the picnic was predictable and preventable. A dangerous animal maintained by an isolated individual with no oversight breached containment and terrorized innocent families. The owner has shown recklessness, not just in animal management, but in behavior." He tapped his laptop. "And we have audio evidence." He pressed play. The doctored clip filled the room, screaming chaos, and my voice edited beyond recognition, shouting, "Get them, girl," followed by the metallic crash of a gate swinging open. Gasps rippled through the room. People who once waved at me from across the creek now stared like they were seeing me for the first time. Marlene dabbed her eyes with a tissue. Her lawyer folded his hands. "That, members of the board, is the mindset of the man claiming he protects this community." He sat down slowly, savoring the damage. Daniel leaned toward me and murmured, "Good. Let him finish digging." Now it was our turn. Daniel stepped to the podium with none of Marlene's theatrics. He simply said, "We're here because of a story. Now let's talk about facts." He projected the first video onto the big screen, my front porch camera, time-stamped, synced with my phone records. As the doctored audio clip claimed I was at the gate unleashing Hazel, the raw footage showed me in my cabin speaking to the 911 dispatcher. Daniel paused the screen. Same minute, same second, opposite location. Whispers flowed through the room. Next, he played the original clip from my sanctuary's website, the real version of Get It Girl, where I tossed Hazel a treat ball. Then he ran Jace's audio analysis waveforms, splice gaps, and metadata, showing the fabricated file was created on a home laptop 3 days after the picnic. Then came the drone footage. The lights dimmed as the projection showed 2 intruders, cutting my chain, one holding the bolt cutters, the other hoisting the dart rifle with the orange hazard tape. Mason's takedown played clean and fast. The van's license plate froze on screen. A sheriff deputy stepped forward. That rifle contained carfentanil fatal to humans. The van is registered to Ridgepoint Services LLC. Daniel clicked again. An email appeared. To Marlene Cole, from HOA attorney. The meadow east of Alder Creek is not HOA property. Hosting an event there constitutes trespass. Another click. Marlene's reply illuminated the room. The map is outdated. We'll establish precedent. Better to ask forgiveness than permission. Groans and mutters erupted. Then Daniel brought up the wire transfer, $6, $500 from the HOA account to Ridgepoint Services, the day after I posted my trail cam video. He closed his laptop. This wasn't misunderstanding. It wasn't fear. It was a campaign, premeditated, escalated, and executed to seize land, destroy evidence, and eliminate an animal that posed no threat. He stepped back. Silence cracked loud as thunder. The board chair folded her hands, staring directly at Marlene. "Miss Cole, do you have a response?" Marlene opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Her lawyer put a hand on her arm, but she jerked away. "This is taken out of context," she sputtered. He's manipulating. We have timestamps," the chair said coldly. "We have raw footage. We have the state biologist's independent report. And we have your written instructions to falsify audio." Marlene paled, and the chair continued. "We have documentation that you knowingly hosted a public event on land you were explicitly told was not yours." A man in the audience stood up. "You lied to all of us." Another voice. "You risked our kids for property values." Trevor Holt sank lower in his seat. The board chair read the findings. Effective immediately. All complaints against Logan Reed are dismissed with prejudice. Silver Creek Estates HOA is fined to the maximum extent allowed for trespass, endangerment, and harassment. A permanent cease and desist order prohibits Miss Cole or her officers from contacting or entering Mr. Reed's property. All evidence will be forwarded to the district attorney with recommendation for charges including conspiracy, falsification of evidence, and attempted wildlife harm. Chairs scraped. Reporters whispered. Flashbulbs popped. Marlene sat stone-still, mascara streaking down her cheeks, staring at the table as if the wood itself had betrayed her. The chair added one final line. "And Miss Cole, effective immediately, you are removed as president of the Silver Creek Estates HOA." A murmur swept the room. I exhaled for the first time in weeks. Not triumph, not revenge, just relief. Hazel was safe. The land was safe. And the truth, quiet, consistent, documented truth, had done exactly what it needed to do. The hearing ended hours ago, but the adrenaline still echoed in my bones. I walked back toward Alder Creek, the gravel crunching under my boots, the late afternoon light turning the water gold. The new observation deck, built jointly by the conservation grant I earned, and funds reluctantly approved by the new HOA board, waited at the edge of the creek. Today would be its quiet debut. No ribbon cutting, no speeches. Just a place finally used the way it should have been to teach not to take. A group of families gathered there, speaking in soft tones like the woods themselves asked for quiet. Kids leaned over the rail, peering through the fixed spotting scope pointed at Hazel's favorite bend in the river. Someone gasped when Hazel rolled in the shallows, flipping a log to hunt for grubs. A little girl waved me over. "Is she friendly?" she whispered. "No," I said gently. "She's respectful, so we respect her back." The girl nodded solemnly, as if I'd handed her a secret. Behind me, a father stepped closer. "Thanks for not giving up," he said, voice rough. "Most of us didn't know the truth. Now we do." I didn't give a speech. I didn't correct him. I simply nodded because anything more felt too heavy for the moment. Hazel climbed onto a sun-warmed rock, shaking water from her fur. The droplets caught the light like sparks. For the first time since this whole battle started, I felt something calm settle inside me, like the land itself exhaled. Not victory, not payback, just balance, returning to a place that had been pushed off-center. Voices quieted as members of the new Silver Creek HOA board approached. No suits, no dramatics, just ordinary neighbors who finally realized the woman they'd trusted had dragged them into a storm they never asked for. One of them, a tall man with tired eyes, held out an envelope. "We, wanted to give this to you directly," he said. Inside was a short printed letter, an official apology on HOA letterhead. No excuses, no passive phrasing. Just a clear acknowledgement that their leadership had caused harm, trespassed, endangered the community, and failed to protect the truth. At the bottom 6, signatures unsteady, embarrassed, honest. And about the fines, he continued. "We'll cover every cent through HOA reserves. No resident dues will be touched." I nodded. That mattered more than he knew. "And the DA's office?" I asked quietly. He glanced at the creek before answering. "They've already subpoenaed the email chain. Charges are moving fast." Marlene's face flashed in my mind, the frozen smile, the desperate denials, the way her confidence cracked the moment truth stood beside it. She wasn't my responsibility anymore, just evidence. Across the creek, Hazel sniffed the wind, unaware of courts, hearings, or politics. All she knew was that her world had steadied again. The board members thanked me for attending the hearing, for keeping records, for staying calm. One even apologized for leaving a cooler on my land during the panic. I didn't need anything more from them. The truth had done all the talking. As the sun dipped lower, painting the meadow copper, Hazel wandered upstream, vanishing into the brush. The family slowly dispersed, leaving only the sound of water moving over stone. I leaned against the rail, watching the ripples. Everything felt quieter now. Not empty, just settled like soil after a storm. For weeks I had lived in a pressure chamber, every breath measured, every move recorded, every word held up against a lie designed to drown me. Fighting back had sharpened parts of me I didn't know were dull. It cost something, and it gave something back. Mason stepped onto the deck, hands in his jacket pockets. "You done fighting the whole HOA today?" he asked. "Think so," I said. "At least the part that mattered." He nodded toward the sanctuary behind me. "Fence sensors are green, new locks are tight. Hazel'll sleep easy tonight." I looked at the steel line glinting in the distance. A boundary, solid, simple, honest, something Marlene had never understood. "Funny thing," Mason added. "People think the line is about keeping the bear in. It's about keeping everything else out," I said. He smiled. "Exactly." He headed off down the trail, leaving me with the quiet murmur of Alder Creek. Standing alone on the deck, I finally understood the answer to the question people kept asking me. How far is too far? It isn't a distance, it's a purpose. Too far is when you twist truth into a weapon. Too far is when you endanger lives to claim land that isn't yours. Too far is when control matters more than integrity. My job was never to push past that line, it was to hold it. Hazel emerged briefly between the trees, her silhouette framed in fading light, steady, powerful, alive, because the truth held. I closed my eyes, breathed in the cold air, and let the last of the tension slip away. Some people fight to win. I fought so something wild could breathe. And in the end, that was more than enough.